welcome back to the Automotive Logistics Red Sofa. Very pleased to be joined by Skotti Fietsam, joining us again on the Red Sofa after last year. And Skotti, since we've last spoken here, actually, there's been a few changes, and one of them is that as well as leading supply chain, you're now also the CIO at Accuride. So I wanted to start just addressing that. What has that meant for your role, and what does that mean as well for helping to drive your digitalization strategy forward?
Yeah, well, what it meant for my role is an expansion of duties, so more work, but also it's a great opportunity to have that leverage between the supply chain team that's already there and the IT folks that are working on our applications and development. One of the bridges that we've heard a lot about this week was between people. I'm the liaison between supply chain and IT, and there needs to be that business liaison always. And so I feel like I am that liaison at a high point, and I see that there's a hesitation in our supply chain group to really speak up about what the needs are for IT. People tend to just suffer in the way things are, the way they've always been. And on the IT side, they really don't have a strong understanding of what are our priorities and what's most important to us, and then helping to define those to solve them.
Yeah. So it is, as we said, it is the perfect bridge role and helping both sides understand and to prioritize. Yeah. And on that kind of point, what would you highlight as some of your really top priorities and goals in this very interesting year, let's say, that we're encountering?
Yeah, and some of our top goals involve really how are we managing the tariffs, and the tariffs from terms of what are our suppliers charging us, but then getting ahead of it because we may have some inventory that's tariffed or not, but then how are we passing that along to our customers and getting that to be automated versus every day trying 10 people reading the news. So we're trying to curate what's happening. I found it really interesting where we heard about AI and how do we use that to be generative AI. We can look things up, ChatGPT, but I would really like to see predictive AI tell me what's going to happen with tariffs. But in reality, I mean, that's one of the priorities is focusing on tariffs and how do we pass that through, as well as now with the new reorganization of our company is to stop looking backward and start moving forward. And I think we talked about the tools that we could use. And I don't want to start with technology. I want to start with the people and the priorities and the business needs, and then set the business cases, and then say, okay, what are the tools? IT, now it's your job, now my job, to go out and find those tools that best satisfy the needs.
And that's great too, is you have to keep catching yourself and say, hey, this is also my responsibility, so you take that ownership. But I think it's a great point on how the tools can be used, and maybe predicting tariffs is one thing, but at least to understand the complexity of the supply chain. As a wheel producer, aluminum and steel are key inputs, so understanding origins, alternatives, and different ways to approach it is complex, and you need tools to help support do that.
Right.
What would you, we're talking more about compliance in a session today, and particularly tools that can drive it. Obviously tariffs is one area. Are there other areas of compliance in your supply chain where you're turning to technology to help support?
Yes, we're looking at the available tools for mapping out our supply chain so we can quickly react to when there is a tariff or when there is any change in the regulatory environment. Where on our supply chain are we affected? We need to be able to type in a country and push back the amount of revenue that we're buying from that company or the amount of product that we're moving from that country, because that's an immediate impact that we should be able to calculate in seconds. So we've had to do that. We've had to map out our supply chain in a very detailed manner. Country of origin, similar to what we saw with Nissan in their Tier N supply chain, and then knowing where are the highest risks for that. We really did it with some internal tools in Power BI, but I think we could move a little faster now that we're learning more about what is the intelligent automation that's available. I think we can step to the next level.
Absolutely, and one thing we've spoken a lot with Nissan is in mapping that supply chain for compliance purposes, it can reveal many other opportunities. So do you anticipate, or are you starting to see other opportunities as well for optimization, for other points in your supply chain?
Yeah, for optimization, and I hate to go back to the tariff example, but it's the one that's fresh in my mind. And for tariffs, having that ability to quickly look at what countries are impacted and how we can look those up in the system, that mapping also helped us to resource. So I think in general, we talk, 20 years ago, we're all like, we're going to be outsourcing everything outside of the U.S. And now we're insourcing many products and many supplies, and for tariff reasons, but also for localization. Because we saw with the supply chain challenges of the past with COVID and with port shutdowns, with bridge collapses that we've talked about before, how do we immediately react to that? And what are the tools that are going to give us that instant information so that we are not just thinking about what we're going to do, but we already know what we're going to do?
Absolutely. Yeah. Finally, Skotti, what are some areas exciting you most from a technology point of view, now also in the dual role, areas you want to prioritize, move faster in? What really motivates you here?
Yeah. Well, at our supply chain conference this year, we have once a year in our internal organization, I talked to the team about Copilot, and I said, here are some of the ways that I've used Copilot. And then that just took off like crazy. So now the team's generating, procedures and processes and presentations, and also understanding our customers better. So I want to get better at being prompt engineers, and that was a term I learned. Thank you, John Rich. I want us to get more intelligent about artificial intelligence.
Absolutely. No, well, I think we all have so much to learn, but we're embracing it and finding that excitement, motivating teams, giving them opportunities as well to try and experiment. Really key themes we've addressed. Skotti, thanks so much as always for joining and bringing your energy and enthusiasm to this, and for being with us on the Red Sofa.
My pleasure. Thank you.